My name is Amy Schilz, and I work at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo's International Center for the Care and Conservation of Giraffe as a senior animal behaviorist.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. All right, y'all. So last week we did our AZA conference recap, and that episode every year gets a big bump in listenership, which then continues on throughout, at least the next couple weeks, and honestly, hopefully, forever. And that is one of the reasons that I wanted to wait to release this episode until right after the AZA episode, because this is an episode that y'all are gonna love, and I want as many ears on this one as possible. My interview today is with Amy from Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and we are talking all things giraffe. And I didn't even know there was so many giraffe things to be talking about. It's incredible what you are going to hear. And I don't like to give away too much in the intro, but Cheyenne Mountain Zoo has one of the largest giraffe towers in the country. And they do amazing work there. They do amazing work out in the field with conservation work. They have some great partnerships with organizations like the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. And it's just, all of this is so cool and so inspiring. And if you're one of those people who are like, yeah, I guess giraffe for cool or whatever, you are going to have your mind blown by what you hear here. We're talking training, we're talking husbandry, we're talking conservation, all at a ridiculously high level and shared with such a passion, because Amy is just incredible at all of this. And after we recorded, I got to go down to the giraffe barn and see hoof trimming work and the training work. And it's amazing. And watching the full team that was there that day at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo do all the things with a giraffe was like beyond cool. It was just astonishing. What an amazing team. And what amazing people. And I'm so excited to share this with y'all. Now, before I do that, a quick reminder, make sure that you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these Tuesday interview episodes or Friday Zoo News episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at Rossifari Pod, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other thing that I need to say is that this was my first and only so far, but definitely not only visit to Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. And it is one of those zoos that I always see. It's always on top 10 lists everywhere, always. And I get it now. It is an amazing facility. They have gorgeous views, incredible animals, some really, really cool initiatives like their Quarters for Conservation program that, I know a lot of zoos do that, but every time it just makes my heart so happy to see it. And it makes guests think about conservation and what they want to put their money to. So it helps them connect to conservation. The zoo is stunning. It is on top of a mountain, and it looks down at the mountain, and there's other mountains and mountains. It's Colorado, y'all. It's mountains. But I cannot even believe how gorgeous the nature is around everything going on there. And then just the keepers, the staff, everyone, are incredible. I had such a privilege of not only doing stuff for this episode, but getting to go and spend some time with one of the tree kangaroo keepers at the zoo, and got to hang out with the tree kangaroos and some other amazing animals. And it was just, honestly, I have a lot of good days doing this podcast, but this one was one of the best. And that was also helped by the fact that Katie Prop is in Colorado. So Katie came to the zoo, and the Malenskys are in Colorado, so they came to the zoo. So it was this little Rossifari hangout at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. And it really set the tone for an absolutely amazing day. And so I'm so grateful to the team at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo for hooking this up. And with all of that said, I haven't even hyped it up enough. As much as I just said, it's still not enough. Get ready to have your mind blown by Amy Schilz of Cheyenne Mountain Zoo.
Basically, I get to do everything that I love every single day, which is wild. Like, if you would have told me this when I was a kid, I would not have believed you, but it's literally a dream job. So for the most part, I get to take care of the giraffes here, help to train the people how to train, and then train the animals themselves. And then we take what we learn here and what we learn from all the people who come here through our workshops and our conferences, and then spread that information to other zoos through consulting opportunities. So I get to go and travel the world teaching everybody about giraffe.
That's amazing. Yeah, and we clearly... so many thoughts, so much to talk about. But it sounds like, from what you're saying, there are two facets to the job.
Yes.
There's the zoo giraffe, and then there's the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I want to start by talking about the zoo giraffe.
Sure.
Okay. And I know there's a whole new habitat being built right now and all kinds of stuff. But let's start off talking about the animals.
Yeah.
I know y'all are very proud of your herd here.
Yes.
And I have been told that there's a lot of bragging in a very loving way about having such a huge herd and taking such good care of them. And so I tell me about it. Just talk to me about your animals.
Historically, Cheyenne Mountain Zoo has had one of the largest herds of giraffe here in North America. So we've really tried, because of that, to stay at the forefront of their care and learn how to take care of them better. We've always been pushing the envelopes. And one of our mottos for the Giraffe Center is to relentlessly pursue improving giraffe care worldwide. And that starts right here at home. So we've been trying really hard to collect data on whether or not the things that we're implementing is working. We tried to keep each of our giraffes in a tailor-built training program that works just for them, and really push the envelope as far as what we can do, both with training and with medical care.
Well, and I love that so much, because I feel like even in the industry, there's a certain belief that hoofstock, like, you can train anything, but that hoofstock aren't the most trainable of animals. And I'm a behavior nerd. Yes. And so we are going to have to delve into that more. Yes. But before we do, how many giraffe do you have right now?
Right now we have 15. So we've been systematically, actually that's low for us. Lowering our numbers, one, during construction, and two, just so that they can have tailor-built programs. It's a lot harder to do that when you have 24 versus 15. So right now we have 15. We're going to try to increase that number when we get the new barn built, but for right now, during construction, this is working for us. So we've been holding off on breeding and those sorts of things, just to give everybody a little bit of a break while we get the new barn built.
It's so funny to me, as a person who goes to a whole lot of zoos, to hear we only have 15 giraffe.
Yeah.
It's not how that works, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, and I know this is the naughty word, but I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite giraffe?
Oh my gosh, you'd be lying if you said you didn't.
Right, I know.
don't get why people say that.
It's so silly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I do have a favorite. I have two favorites.
Okay.
I don't know, they're tied in different ways. years. I have Lakeisha, who is one of our oldest giraffe. I think she's either 23 or 24 right now. But we've been working together the whole time I've been here.
Wow.
So 13 years we've been partnered with each other. She's a little bit of what I would label as a harder giraffe. By that I mean she tells you no with her body language pretty clearly, and definitely knows if she knows you or doesn't know you. So you can't just put new people on her without a relationship. She tests the waters a little bit. Like she'll look down at and to see who's at her foot, and if she's not comfortable with that person, she'll her no is typically to twitch her skin on that side. So if she doesn't want you to come close, she has the choice to say no, and she just says no to new people. So
so you're telling me that all giraffes look down on people, but this one really looks down on some people.
Yeah. She also, the other reason I love her so much is she's got her bottom jaw sticks out a little bit. And so she's always looking up to get food. Most of our catwalks are elevated. So all you see is her big pearly white teeth, like sticking up and smiling at you. And none of the other giraffe do that. So to me, she just always looks what I would label as happy, but she's brilliant. She's a lot of fun to work with.
That's so cool. And that's, one of the funniest things to me as I've been learning more about this and going and meeting so many incredible animals and stuff, is just that we as humans love overbites, underbites,
Yes.
weird coloration, weird spotting, whatever odd thing an animal has is like our favorite thing about it.
Yeah.
And then we have our own things that are weird about us. And we're like, ugh, I'm disgusting. Yeah. Oh, I hate this. And it's so dumb. Yeah. I have vitiligo. And so I have a lack of pigmentation on a lot of my arms and stuff. And I was so embarrassed by it for so long. And then somebody told me I looked like an African wild dog. And from that point on, I was like, heck yeah, I do. And I think it's beautiful now. I really do. It was such an interesting perspective shift. But I think it's so funny that your favorite thing that you needed to tell me and my audience that this giraffe has this bite thing and how amazing it is. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, ugh. Yep. It's just fascinating.
It is wild. That's a really good observation. I was talking to someone the other day who said, we weren't built to look at our reflections. Mirrors didn't exist. Well, I don't know. I would have to look up when that was, but you're not supposed to sit in front of a mirror for however many hours out of the day that we do now and just overanalyze what you look like. But life might be simpler in that way if you were a giraffe.
Yeah.
Actually, we have given the giraffes mirrors. The only one who tends to really like it is Khalid. So he does sit and look at himself.
That's awesome. Yeah. So who's number 1B then?
No, 1B, yes. His name is Mashama.
Okay.
And he is really tall, really like a thin castrated male. And again, we were partnered together when I first started here. So he was 3 when I first started, and now he's like 15, 16. But he has just been, for me, a training rock star. So Lakeisha, you have to be really careful and really thoughtful. Sometimes I don't breathe when I'm training here because I'm thinking so hard. And Mashama, on the other hand, you could talk about the weekend and joke and laugh with him around. And he's like, hey guys, what do you want to do today? He has donated plasma to the plasma bank.
Nice.
He's received voluntary stem cells into his jugular vein. So he stood still for that, which is a really slow push for the stem cells to come in. He's done hoof care. He's gotten shoes. He's gotten acupuncture. He does everything that you could ask him to do. And he's so gentle while he does it. So, these guys can kill an African lion with their legs and their feet. And to think that Mashama will just gently hand his over into your hand and let you do, pretty much using power tools on the bottoms of his feet is pretty wild. He's such a good giraffe.
That is really cool. And again, a testament to the amazing training, which is also a great transition to us talking about your tailored training plans.
Yeah.
And I guess my first question is, you keep saying that these plans are tailor-made. So who is Taylor? No, I'm kidding. But obviously, that means an individualized plan for each animal. Yeah. And so where did that come from? Where did that idea come from? What goes into that? Like, go off.
Okay, all right. That's really exciting.
Monologue time.
Like, I agree that stock weren't given enough credit in the world, and I was one of the people who didn't give them enough credit. So I have to own that. I was brought up in the bird training world, so I learned to do bird shows first, and that's where I learned how to train. I think everybody should start learning how to train with birds, because if you can learn to see, an eye pin or like a flush of a cheek or a feather going up to know that they're not happy, then when it translates over to something like an African lion or an elephant, they're a lot bigger. Then you're like, oh, okay, it's so much easier to see here. You learn it on these tiny little creatures, and you have to build a relationship because they could fly away. They could leave the whole stadium. And so you're banking on the trust that you have with the animals to come back. And from the bird show, I started doing big cats. And that was always like the dream, for, I don't know, me as a kid was to work with big cats. Whenever I was a kid, I would go to the Milwaukee County Zoo, and the snow leopard was the one that I would just sit and stare at forever. But I had always been a relief keeper in the giraffe world. So I was the primary in big cats and then cover other people's areas on the weekends and would cover giraffes. And I always thought they were so dumb. I would call them dumb. I would do keeper talks explaining that they were just like big, I'm doing air quotes right now, but dumb cows. And I've shared that story so many times because when I came here, I actually came here for the lion building that was being built. But it wasn't done yet. So I got stationed in the giraffe barn, which was tied to the new lion building. And we had a bull at the time. His name was Mwimbi, who had really overgrown feet. And, I kept advocating for a knockdown procedure on him. And I don't know if you know a lot about giraffe, but anesthesias are a no-go for giraffes for a lot of reasons. People are learning more about how to do them better. But historically, they had a 1 in 10% chance of mortality under anesthesia. So it was something that we didn't want to do. And my boss at the time, Jason, said, well, why don't you just train him? And I was like, I can't train giraffe. Like, that was what I thought in my head. And so I was like, okay. So I went and put a hoof block out in the middle of the yard. Well, like kind of on this lip thing. And he came over and he started playing with it with his feet. And I was like, okay, bridging and giving him food every time he did it. And probably within 30 seconds, he was putting his foot on the block on cue. And you could hear it's on video. It's like a grainy old BlackBerry video. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's smart. And that's kind of how our training program here for me was built. I know that they had done some other things before I started here. But for me, that was the moment like, okay, we can do this. And within 3 sessions, he had his hooves trimmed pretty remarkably. I think he took like 3 inches off all the way around his feet, and he was walking better. And we're like, well, if we can do it with him, we could do it with everyone. And at the time, we had 22 giraffes.
Oh my God, 22.
22.
So
I know. And and we didn't have as many resources as we have now because, there was no training program. So the zoo is really supportive. As they saw the momentum be built, they added staff to the area, and we were able to get everybody hoof trimmed and x-rays done within the first year. And it was a really fun time figuring out how to navigate each individual. So we started with animals that what I would label as easy, like the Mashamas of the world, who are just willing to participate for everyone. And we kind of like worked out the kinks with them. And then, halfway through, you get to the ones that maybe have painful feet, or maybe they're 24 years old and have never been in a program. And you're trying to figure out how to teach those individuals how to do the same thing that the other ones were doing, plus our keeper skills, right? Like we were getting staff added, but they were really green and had not been taught how to train, which was both a blessing and something we had to work through. So when we started to get to these harder ones, we were like, oh man, like we are doing these things to the animals, and we were checking off our goals, but we were starting to see them, maybe not want to come back as often. And that was a hard piece for us to work through, but it was great because right at the time we were working with Behavior Works, so Dr. Susan Friedman and Steve Martin from NEI, and they had come and given us a talk. And the talk was all about how control over your environment is a primary reinforcer. So we tried to implement that into our training programs, and the giraffes like Lakeisha, who are really hard, we gave them control. So if they twitched their shoulders, we backed off. And then we gave them a way to say yes. So if they put their nose on the target, that's like an assent behavior. By that, I mean, like, they can't consent. They can't like say, yeah, go ahead, or, sign your name to a piece of paper. But assent is like the nonverbal way to say go ahead. So the target stick became that for us. We didn't do anything to the giraffes unless they put their nose on the target stick. So they had a way to tell us, oh, okay, go ahead and put your hands on my foot. And then if they twitched, it was hands off. So they decide what we're going to do during the training. And that is what worked for what I would label as the harder giraffe to like work through them. That's what I mean. They're tailor-made because they all say no a little bit different. So some of our giraffes will say no by twitching their shoulder. Some will do what we call a fetlock pop, where they bounce their fetlock in the hoof block. Some of them swish their tail. And you never know, right? Like the animal gets to decide what that is, and we just have to roll with it. So we watched for those tiny little behaviors that would tell us they're uncomfortable so that we don't get kicked or we don't get hurt, because we're giving them what they want, which is to remove all the tools and whatever whenever they say no.
So maybe this is a dumb question.
There's no such thing.
Oh, you haven't heard some of the questions I've asked. But I'm curious. So this is the first time that I've heard someone talk about animals having individual ways of saying no. And I've learned a lot. I've spent time with Steve Martin and down at NEI and stuff, and I've done a lot of training stuff, especially with birds, actually. Yeah. And I agree, they are an interesting way to start that world. Yeah. But what the signs are, and they're universal signs. And so I guess what my question is if you saw one of those behaviors, how did you know that it was a no?
Yeah, great. That is a great question, because I would guess that the birds probably have similar things with the giraffe, where there are probably a variety of different signs, but the ways that they're put in order together in a behavior chain might be different. So what we were looking for is anything that would predict the foot coming off the block or the giraffe walking away. And we watched videos. We have them all on video. And so we could see, this one's ears went out right before he pulled his feet. If we stop when the ears go out, his foot will stay on. So we just started to look at all of them and see which ones were the precursors. We have one who moves her knee. We have one who picks her head up off the target. So learning all of those has been the most challenging, but also the most fun part about it. It's like problem solving when you're in the moment.
That's really cool. And I love that you guys video it and stuff like that, because so I guess the way that I was picturing it was like you would interpret you would see a tail swish and stop. But that's not what would happen. They would remove their foot, and then you would go back and say tail swish, foot moved, let's watch out. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. So they were training you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like they get an equal, I would love to say they get an equal voice in our training program that we do. Like we get to ask them, do you want to do this today? And then they get to say no. If they say no, it's my job to figure out how to get the yes. Like, okay, you said no today. How am I going to fix it for tomorrow? Because I want you to say yes. I've got to take care of your feet. I know you've got an abscess in there and we have to knife it out. Like that's a big ask to ask a giraffe to give you its foot so you can knife out something painful.
Yes.
And we can't just say, oh, they said no, we're done. We have got to figure out how to change things so that they say yes the next day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah. I really, really love that. Yeah. Training's so cool.
It is.
I find it so fun. I could nerd out about this stuff all day.
We should.
I mean,
let's just do nothing else and sit here and talk about training. I would love that.
That is one of my favorite things. There are a couple different facilities where I get to go and spend some time with their pinnipeds from time to time. I'm actually going to Phoenix back to Wildlife World Zoo right after this today. Cool. And after every presentation, the entire team gathers and powwows and discusses the behavioral aspects of it. And a lot of facilities simply don't have the staff or support to do that. And the things that I have learned and the things that I have seen them say and grow and things that one person notices that no one else did. Oh, it's such a beautiful thing.
Yes.
That's really cool. Now, you mentioned that the zoo here provides a lot of support and resources and are very on board with this. What does that look like?
Yeah, I liken it to our CEO, Bob Chastain. I akin it to him pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. So I think a lot of times I see keepers get really frustrated because they want this or they want that, but they haven't taken any steps yet to show what's going to happen. Like, I feel like Bob's really good at recognizing when something good is going. He wants it to go bigger, faster, stronger. So we just had started with a few giraffe, and then he saw the progress, and we kept him updated. We would send him emails and invite him down to see it. And, then we got one more person, and then we got a keeper assistant that was, 4 hours to 8 hours. It just kept growing. And the more that we do, the more he adds resources to it, to the point now where we have 4 people on our team, a full-time keeper assistant, and then Diana, who used to be a keeper down there, and I both work for the Giraffe Center, and now we have an administrative assistant. So, imagine, in the 10 years' time, it went from a single keeper with 4 hours of help to that is pretty wild. So he's been really supportive of watching this program grow, and the more resources that we get, the more we do. We don't just go, we can take a break now. So
right, of course. Yeah. I know that administrative assistant is the proper term, but I'm just saying that whoever this person is really missing out on a shot to call themselves the Secretary of Giraffe.
I'll bring that up to her tomorrow.
Sounds like a cabinet position, I like it.
Yeah. Her job is so wild. Sometimes we look at each other, we're like, man, I bet nobody else gets to say the sentence that we said that day, you're like, this is just something that the planet, probably was said once in this universe. And we all have those moments at least once a month. So yeah, we've got weird jobs, but she's super helpful.
That's awesome. I really like that. So let's talk about the renovations. Mm-hmm. Well, tell me what's going on down in Giraffe Town.
Yeah, that's another example of us learning new things and then trying to do something different. So giraffe are one of the few species that live less in human care, less years than they do in the wild. So their wild counterparts are outliving them by quite a bit. Male giraffe in human care is 15 on average, and females is about 20. And in the wild, they've been seeing them have babies in their late 30s.
Oh,
so,
wow.
We're trying to figure out the disparity there. Here at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, our giraffes have lived really long lives. Our male just passed in the last month at 22. And then we've had some live to be in their early 30s, late 20s. So we feel like we're hitting the mark, but they do also have, some hoof issues and stuff. So we've been trying to figure out what it is that would help the giraffes live a little bit longer. So we've been doing not only the hoof care stuff to see if we can take better care of their feet, but also about a quarter of the giraffe, a study just came out that shows a quarter of them over the last, I can't remember how long they looked at the lives of giraffe, maybe the last 20 years, passed from traumatic injury. So barn design, like how we can design our barns so that they can be safer, so that giraffes can, make it longer and live happier and healthier lives. And our new barn, I think, is a culmination of all the things that we have learned about behavior, as well as all the things we've learned about safety, as well as all the things that we've learned about how we can give them choices and enhance their environment throughout the day. So my old boss, Jason, is now the curator of environmental enhancements. And his job is just to go around and find animals, habitats, and enhance them every day. So he's bringing in dirt and mulch, different substrates, different tree branches, different scents, sometimes running water or mud wallows or weird things that he changes their environment every day. And when we looked at our new barn, what we knew we wanted was a place for giraffe to walk in straight lines. A lot of times in human care, you'll see that the habitats are designed into small boxes. And if you ask any giraffe keeper on the planet, what do you hate about your barn? Giraffes don't like to turn corners. They don't like to go down skinny hallways. They don't like to go from light to dark. And we just keep repeating the same barn design everywhere.
Right.
And knowing that they have all these problems, we said, why don't we change that? So it's a really wide open space. In the middle is an island so that they can walk straight and not do those tight pivots that might add some stress to their joints and their feet. We have, I can't remember how many feeders Jason is putting in there, but it's like an astronomical number. Like when you hear it, you're going to be like, what? Because a lot of times you'll see these like new facilities put up, this 5-acre habitat, and we're all worried about space, but there's one feeder in it. So there's not choices. And Jason wants there to be choices. So there's choices in substrate. We've got sand, I think mulch, maybe shavings, and then DG. We've got a variety of different feeders in there. So slow feeders for both alfalfa and browse. We've got live feeders. So we're going to be putting in real trees that grow up, because the ceiling in it is going to be an ETFE roof, which essentially is like having a sunroof. Oh. So they'll be able to grow plants, but the giraffes will also get to see the sun, get their vitamin D, and they'll get to see the moon and the stars and like have that whole life cycle, that like daylight cycle that we should all be having. And we know, like, we're finding out more and more about how important that is to a lot of different species. So we're just going to try to give them all to giraffe. Yeah.
Very cool. I like that a lot. I have, again, this might be another dumb question, but why do we need barns?
Well, here in Colorado, it gets below 40 pretty often. So they have to come inside. These guys are built for African temperatures, and they're really susceptible to cold weather.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's why we have to do it. In Texas, they're getting freezes a little bit more now than they ever used to, but their giraffe are outside a lot more often, and they just have to bring them in during cold weather. But yeah, for us, it's more of a routine thing. Hopefully less often now, though, because we will have indoor-outdoor straight access, and we'll be able to remote control the doors. Like, this thing is like tech savvy. We're going to be able to drop feeders from our phone. What a world, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? I'm so curious about like things like the different substrates, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that all of the giraffe will take advantage of those, or do you think that you're going to suddenly find, 12 giraffe hanging out in a quarter of the barn because that's where the sand is or whatever,
Yeah, that's it's really exciting because we don't know yet. Jason's been doing a lot of data collection and a lot of data testing on our current barn. So he's found we've got cameras that he can watch, and he watches overnight, and he'll watch for things like laying down. So I used to think that giraffe didn't lay down during the day because I never saw them lay down during the day. And then in 2017, I was lucky enough to go on the translocation trip in Uganda with the Giraffe Conservation Foundation,
Nice.
who've been great partners with us and teaching us about what they do in the wild. And as we're driving through, I see like this herd of 40 giraffe just laying down in the middle of the day. And I was like, wait a minute, like I give keeper talks on how giraffes don't lay down during the day, but they weren't laying down at our zoo, probably because we weren't providing an environment that was built for them to do that. So Jason added sand to our exhibit, and then guess what? They started laying down. And then he started moving the sand piles to test to see like, okay, was it really the sand, or was it that location, or what was it? And so he's been slowly doing that with things like mulch, decomposed granite and sand mix, like a 50-50 mix, and just shavings. He's tested the, I think it was called Fibar, which is a different kind of mulch. What he's learned is that they're all individuals. So Khalid likes the 50-50 sand mix and did not touch the mulch. It was like hot lava for him. And then he would choose to lay down on a sand bed, though. And then Mohali was opposite. Mohali would choose to stand on the mulch and lay on the mulch, but didn't necessarily like to walk in the sand. You can imagine like walking in sand for 24/7 is not fun for a lot of animals. And I think we typically tend to do what's easiest for humans without paying attention to what the giraffes actually need. But like us, right? In my kitchen, I have hardwood floor. It's beautiful. I like it. But I put a memory foam mat right where I do the dishes. So giving them choices of where they want to stand and how long they want to stand for. Like, I like going to the beach, right? I like going to the beach for 3 hours. I don't want to walk on sand for 24/7. So giving them choices like that in our barn, I hope that they get to choose to go to different places and try different things and do what works for them in that moment. I'm really excited about those, the whole world acknowledging that maybe they shouldn't be on concrete anymore.
That seems fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's, is there anything else you want to say about any of the individuals or anything else specifically at the zoo before we move on to all the other draft stuff?
Sure. I'll add that with the caveat that I have favorites is that our whole team has favorites and none of them overlap. So they all get love from someone. If you go and ask anyone in our barn who their favorite is, they're all going to have a different answer. And I think it's all based off of the ones that we work with or are primary trainers on, just because you get to know them so well. There's some fun rivalry that we have going on too. So Mashama is actually born one day apart from his brother Toombili, and like in our barn you're either team Mash or team Toombili, like because they're troublemakers in their own way, and what one does to be funny half of us find like not funny, and then the same with the other ones. So they flip back and forth. It's like a joking camaraderie thing. We all love everyone, but yeah, there's different bonds you have with different animals.
No, absolutely. I think that one of the things that I find the most fascinating about anyone involved with animals, be it someone in your position, someone doing like the stuff I do, or even talking to literally like grounds crew and like the people that clean up at zoos and stuff, is everyone has their favorites.
Yeah.
And none of us can really explain why.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to me. And even just thinking about like with me, like I have 4 species that are my top 4, right? Yeah. And it's red pandas and tree kangaroos and binturongs and sea turtles. And that makes no sense. That you can't, there's not a profile of those 4 animals that fits, you know? And I sometimes try and think about like, what is it? And I just, there's no answer, but some of it's the experiences you've had and, you know, and I didn't care about birds at all until I started doing some training stuff with them. And now I'm like obsessed, you know? And so, there is a lot of that, but it's always so amazing how any team you talk to, different favorites, and there's always a reason why. And
it makes me, when today's Mother's Day, but if you ask my mom, like, who's your favorite? I know she has one. I was like, you have to, like, as I have 16 or 15 giraffe and you're like, no, I love them all equally. And you're like, do you really though? So, yeah.
No, that's very real. Very real. Yeah. I only have one child, so he's my favorite, but I'm pretty convinced that he would be my favorite otherwise too, because he's like super a mini me in a lot of ways, in good ways. Yeah. And the ways he's not like me are ways that I wish I was more like him, you know?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But okay, so let's talk about what is the insanely long name of this giraffe place again?
Yeah. It's the International Center for the Care and Conservation of Giraffe. It is a mouthful, so most of the time we call it the Giraffe Center, or the Center for short, when we're talking to each other here at the zoo.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's a great name. It just, I remember, when we were conversing about doing this interview and stuff, and it was recommended to do this, I actually had to pause. I was down to talk about it, but I had to go and do just a little bit of research to make sure that I knew what we were talking about. Would we even talk about the giraffe that were here, all that stuff? And so, explain to me what the center is and just kind of an overview.
So we try really hard. The goal is the same, whether it's here or with the Giraffe Center, is to improve the lives of giraffe and human care. I'm going to add the word relentlessly because that's Jason's favorite word, like relentlessly pursue it. And so we've been trying to do that. So one of the one of my most favorite parts about our job is we host workshops. So that started in about 2015 when we were keepers. We were just really passionate about it. And when we were first learning how to do all the stuff with giraffe, there weren't a lot of resources out there. So we started the Facebook group, Giraffe Training and Enrichment. And then that grew to, I think now it has 3,000 members. We just changed the name over to the Giraffe Center's name. we hosted these workshops, and we were having people come so that we could learn from them as well as they could learn from us and do a bunch of hands-on stuff. But it was all in addition to our already full keeper schedules. So then people started calling and emailing us and asking us for help doing this and help doing that. And we were trying to do that in addition to running the giraffe barn full time. And it was like running two jobs at once. And it all kind of like bubbled up during COVID, when a lot of our time and resources was spent answering emails and doing phone calls. And then we were getting asked to fly out to other zoos and help, which I was doing on my days off and my vacation time, and trying to make it work until our CEO, Bob, was like, well, what if you just did that for your job? And I was like, wait, we can do that? He's really good at, creating positions that people find inspiring. And that's what he did for the Giraffe Center. So Diana and I moved to the Giraffe Center. So Diana has been working at the zoo about the same amount of time as I have. She took a couple of years and worked at Lincoln Park in Chicago to be closer to family, but then came back. So she runs Giraffe Safe. She has got an office right over around the corner from me. And then she's really passionate about hoof care. So she's a certified hoof care professional through Liberated Horsemanship. We've also done work with ZHTP, which is a zoo hoofstock trim program in the past, to get the skills needed to be able to do hoof care here on our own giraffe. So she runs that. And then I do the behavior consulting piece and the workshop piece. And we just teach everybody, and we can either fly to different zoos. We've been hired to come out and train and do hoof care on animals that would otherwise need to go under anesthesia, or we fly out and we teach people how to do it on their own animals. So teach people how to train and how to get it done. It's kind of hard to do both. I don't think that we've learned through the years that we can't do both in a 3-day consulting trip. Right. You can either do one or the other. So you have to kind of figure out what the priority is for that team. And sometimes they choose, the more pressing hoof care, and then sometimes they choose to get the keepers the skills. So yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. And this is something that a lot of zoos are participating in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. We're busy all the time. It's really it's good. It's really fun. We partner with BehaviorWorks a lot too. So a lot of the consulting jobs come through them as well. And usually when we're there for giraffes, but then we also go look at, the lions or the birds or whatever else is there that they want us to look at.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. So when you're out there, describe what that's like. And I know that our industry is very collaborative, yes, which is nice. But I also do wonder, do you ever encounter maybe especially a more established keeper, we'll say, who is kind of like, oh, sod off, this is not, like I'm fine. Yeah, luckily, most of the places that invite us in are driven by the keeper staff. So they've been to our workshops, they've seen what we can do, we've formed good relationships here, and then they want it at their facility too. So I would say 80 to 90% are keeper driven, which is really cool. Like people who have gone to bat and advocated for us to be able to help them, which is great. And then we've got a couple of others where it's, the top down trying to get the skills to their team. And I think both have been really great. I don't think I've been to any place. I think also because we're paid consultants where we come in and people don't want us there, right. I think like that's been, we've been well received everywhere we've gone, and I think made big progress wherever we've gone too. So yeah. Nice. I love that. Well, yeah, results speaking for themselves is always such a beautiful thing, right? Yeah. That's really cool. So tell me about what your little 3-day trips are like.
Okay. Well, it depends. So if they want the keepers to get the skills, then we usually do a mix of workshop and hands-on activities. So we'll do lectures, and then I don't know if you've heard of Portal. It's PORTL, but the Behavior Explorer group, Mary Hunter's group, came up with these tabletop games to teach behavior skills. And then we'll do them on like tabletop trainings and then go work with an animal, say like a goat that's a little bit less intimidating, and then get it down there and then go work with the giraffes.
Wait, so this is called Portal, Portl.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard of that, and I'm so excited to check it out.
Oh my gosh,
that's really cool.
It's really
wow.
fun. I've got books over there. I'll show you after we're done.
Nice.
But yeah, everybody should check them out. They're great.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good.
I'm so fascinated by it.
And then it depends. Like sometimes we'll have people hire us to come out and they want us to train their giraffes, and the giraffes won't take food from us. We're strangers, right? So we have to pivot and, figure out what we can do to make it work and worth their time. So that might look like us then coaching one of their staff who the giraffe does take food from. Sometimes we've had to watch on remote cameras. It just depends on the staff. But it's been fun. We've been all over the world. We've done, England, a few places in South and Central America, and here all over the US. So it's a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. Every time you go to a different place too, you see things that you would love to take back to your own facility. And the keepers tell you something that they do that's just genius. I think that's why we get to make such big progress with our herd, is because it's built off of the backs of all the collaborations that people do when they come here and work with us. We get access to 30 people through our giraffe care workshop, 30 experts, right? 30 giraffe keepers every year at our giraffe care workshop. And then we do the behavior workshop. Dr. Susan Freeman is great about keeping us informed of what's happening in the behavior world that's like at the cutting edge. So we get to stay up to date with that. So it's not us in a vacuum for sure. It's definitely like we just learn so much faster because we have access to everybody.
No, that makes a ton of sense. That's really cool. It's funny just because one of the things that I have become a service in this industry is making connections, because this is a weirdly disconnected industry. There's a Facebook group for keepers and then some individual Facebook groups and all that stuff. Yeah. But I'm constantly shocked by bouncing around from zoo to zoo, how often I will talk to someone and they'll be like, I'm trying to figure this out about X animal. And I'm like, I did an interview about that a year and a half ago. Let me connect you with this person, stuff like that. And it's been such a thing that I never expected to be part of so cool. Rossifari, but it's so fun. Yeah. And I love that. It's so cool knowing that the giraffe world has that, that's been really meaningful to me. So I know it's meaningful to you as well to be able to facilitate that. Now you mentioned that y'all are partnered with our friends at GCF and had Steph on the pod.
Oh,
wonderful,
wonderful
she
is
human.
wonderful.
Yeah. But so talk to me about that relationship.
Yeah, we get to see her. I'm literally leaving on Tuesday to go to Africa. So that's great. Our zoo has been heavily involved with GCF for over 10 years, I believe. We've got what we call legacy projects. So whenever people enter our zoo, they get charged 75 cents extra in addition to, do you want me to do it?
Nope.
Okay.
Animals are welcome on my podcast.
They get charged 75 cents extra. And those quarters are changed out for tokens. And the tokens are things that people can go vote on. So down at the front, I don't know if you guys got to stop and see that, but you can vote for conservation projects.
Yeah, I saw it when I walked up.
Perfect. Yeah. Giraffes has been one of those projects for a really long time. So we financially contribute to their organization. And in turn, they've had us come out and participate in different research projects. So we've been able to go out and help watch translocations. I will say watch because those guys are the experts. They have everything nailed down to the T, right? And it's more like a working, don't call it a vacation because it's not like you're laying on a beach somewhere, but I would hate to take credit for the work that they do while they're out there. While we contribute financially, they are doing really cool things in the field, and they've allowed us to tack on some research projects while they have the giraffes under anesthesia. So I think there was a blood study that was done through our veterinarian at the time in collaboration with CSU, and we've done a hoof care study where we took x-rays of the giraffe feet when they were under anesthesia about to be translocated so that we could look to see what the differences between giraffe feet in the wild and giraffe feet in human care were. And then on Tuesday, we're heading out. They have saved up some giraffe feet from animals who have died for other reasons in their freezer for us, and got them CT scanned so that we could look at them internally. We feel like we still don't have the way to trim giraffe feet nailed down. A lot of it's based off of what we know from domestic species, but we haven't had people go and look at the feet after knowing what we know now. So we're bringing one of our other hoof care specialists, Kelsey Newman, and an anatomist from Auburn University, a PhD guy. His name is Ray, is going to come with us, and we're going to dissect the feet and then hopefully learn how to better take care of giraffe in human care. There's never been a hoof anatomy study done on giraffe in the wild. So there's just so much that isn't known about them. There have always been these charismatic species and creatures that are out there. But as I'm sure Steph has talked about, there's not been a lot of research done other than, GCF and a handful of other researchers. So yeah, it's been great to partner with them.
That's very cool and very fascinating. I'm constantly amazed at how much we still don't know about animals.
Yeah.
Given how much we do know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very
we
cool.
still don't know their lifespan. Isn't that wild?
It is.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. No, and even the animals that we do know their lifespan, it's how much of a variable is it? No, I'm constantly fascinated by this. I've been covering the AAZV conference every year, the Zoo Vets conference, and to see the research that's being done, that is stuff that I am so sure we already knew. I remember last year, they were finally coming up with a body condition score chart for a red panda. Yeah. We've had pandas in human care forever. How do we not have one of those? But then also there are the, cutting edge things that I would have never, it's just so fascinating how our information is all over the place.
It is. And it's so good to have partners like the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. Rick he's our curator of behavior programs here. He's always saying, Dr. Michael Brown, who works for GCF, is our window into looking at what they should be doing with their time. Even up until 5 years ago, we were feeding giraffe twice a day with big piles of grain and alfalfa. And our browse program was just we felt good if we gave them a stick of browse once a week. And to talk to Michael about how they spend their time 17 hours out of the day, they're eating and pulling off these tiny little leaves. Jason and Rick have really worked to design the environment so that the giraffes here are always doing that same thing so that we have less of the pacing, less of the stereotypic licking that you see. It's wild, but it's been because of those partnerships and exploring what they should be doing with their bodies instead of what we think they should be doing. Right. And just meeting their nutritional needs is not the same as meeting their behavioral needs.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Is there anything else that you want to share about all of this?
Just that everyone should love giraffe. If you still think they're big dumb cows, I hope that they are the umbrella species for training hoof stock everywhere. Because what I'm seeing, is the people who come and they learn how to do the hoof care, it's transferring over to things like zebras and bongos, and they're getting blood draws and voluntary injections on these animals that were historically labeled as dumb or untrainable. So I'm excited to see that they're a catalyst for the rest of the creatures who also deserve positive reinforcement training and behavior programs. So it's possible just because we've worked with them in one way for, the last 50 years doesn't mean we can't change it and keep progressing.
Absolutely. And actually, one thing that I'll throw in on that is if you are listening to this and you don't work with giraffe, and if you're thinking, I've a lot of zoos have giraffe feedings and stuff, and you get to meet them, and it's cool, it's great. But there's something that's coming here that I think if you ever get the opportunity to do at anywhere that allows this, you should take the opportunity. But in the new habitat that's being built, you're going to do a foot level giraffe feed. And my personal experience with giraffe was they're cool, they're pretty, whatever. I'd fed a bunch of them. I thought they were big, dumb cows. There was something about, they just weren't it wasn't the most majestic thing in the world, even though they're tall and cool or whatever. And I will never forget the first time that I did a foot level giraffe feeding. and saw this incredible creature looking down at me and then lowering its head down. And I've had the opportunity to do a bunch of those now.
Yeah.
And every single time it is breathtaking.
Yeah.
So I am so excited that the public's going to get an opportunity to do that here when the new habitat opens, because I think that will change minds very quickly.
I hope so. They're just so cool. We have to share them.
Absolutely. I love that. And then I can already guess the answer, but my last two questions are always, is there a conservation organization you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we work with the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. So that is one that our zoo supports. Can I say one that's not giraffe?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Did you know I was going to say that? I obviously love big cats. So we've worked with Iwaso Lion Conservation for many years as well, helping to save African lions, who still have a big piece of my heart, even though I work with giraffes every day. So, yeah, they're a great one.
Nice.
Also.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Iwaso. And then last but not least,
it's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
I mean, it's hard because poop doesn't really gross me out. We will literally play baseball with it in the giraffe yard just to make life a little bit more fun. We were training the other day and Kelsey just picked stuff off of one of our giraffe's feet and whipped it at me. And I just laugh it's what you're going to do. Poop doesn't gross me out, but I did have one moment that I was like, okay, this is probably it. Our bull giraffe Khalid, when we work with him, we work up in a chute area. Both doors are open. He can choose to leave if he wants to leave, but we're on a catwalk. And I was feeding him, and I must have been putting the lettuce really close to my face. I'm demonstrating it for him so he can see me, but I'm holding a piece of lettuce right up as I'm looking and talking to our donors who are on a tour. And Khalid went to grab it, and their tongue is 18 inches long, and it went directly into my mouth. Oh. And I could not talk. I still remember that. I have trauma from that when I think about the feeling of it. I just can't. Yeah, that's probably the grossest thing that has ever happened to me here.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I have a mini Aussie that does that. And that's bad enough, but a giraffe. Yep. Amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you. It's been really fun.
Yay. So, at the beginning of that episode, Amy said that she gets to do her dream job every single day and talked about how incredible that is. And I agree. And I think I am incredibly fortunate that I get to have this dream thing where I go out and do this podcast. And this was one of those dream days for me. So I definitely related to Amy when she said that. I'm again just so thankful to everyone at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo for being incredible and working with me and letting me come out. I was actually out there because I was doing a gig at this casino that was an hour away from Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and it was up high in the mountains. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo is high, and I've played Denver and Aspen and Colorado Springs and stuff. But the place that I played was twice the elevation of Denver. And since Denver is the Mile High City, you can do the math. It was actually crazy. They gave us these little canisters of pure oxygen, and we were all like, we're not going to need those. And we needed them. My buddy Luke, who is absolutely in incredible shape, and I went to get coffee, and it was about a 5-minute walk uphill, and we made it almost 2 minutes before we had to stop and suck air through a can. So yeah, just a crazy fun little story. And it's always so interesting to me, as somebody who travels so much, to be in an elevation like that. And then literally I flew from there to Phoenix, which has quite the opposite elevation. It's just always so interesting how different and varied our nation is, geographically and otherwise. So with all of that said, I do want to take a moment before I say goodbye here to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. Thank you all so much for supporting the pod. And don't forget that you can do so for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. So we'll be back here on Friday with our Zoo News episode. But until then, remember, the word credits backwards is Steiderk.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.